My friends, today we have to start with something I don't want to report. I hate to report this, but this happened yesterday. Russian missile hit in the Kharkiv Oblast. Two targets, the city of Kharkiv, a civilian residential area, and a small village called Groza. Supposedly it was a Russian Iskander missile that landed in the village of Groza. Close to 100 villagers were gathered in that cafe at the moment for a mourning service, a funeral service. When the Russian Iskander missile hit them, destroying the entire building, and there were 51 casualties, all civilian, children, elderly, women, men, everybody, indiscriminately. I cannot show you any images, they are horrifying, everything is up online, you can go and find them yourself if you want to. What I can show you, and this illustrates the Russian terror perfectly, is this clip of the phones taken from the rubble a few hours later. This is all the phones they could find, and they're still ringing because the close ones are calling. When they heard about this attack, they're calling to find out if their relatives and close ones were among the casualties. And if the phones were found, then probably, unfortunately, yes, they were. It's a very sinister reminder of the capacity of Russian war crimes. This will not be forgotten, and this will not be forgiven. Now, at the very same time of this attack yesterday, what even makes it more sinister is Putin was holding a speech at the very moment. And now we'll watch the speech, the words that Putin was saying at the moment when his Iskander missiles sent 51 innocent Ukrainians to the afterlife. I have repeatedly said that we did not start the so-called war in Ukraine. On the contrary, we are trying to end it. We did not stage the coup d'etat in Kiev in 2014. I've already told you how to transcribe or translate the Russian words, Putin's words or the FSB's words or Shoigu's words. You just have to mirror them, and that's the truth. It's a very simple translation trick. We did not start the war means we started the war. We did not stage the coup d'etat in 2014 means that we did it. That as easy as that. And I say it again, at the very same time the Iskander missile caused 51 innocent Ukrainian casualties. Putin also decided he needs to talk about the Wagner plane where Prigozhin was on. He felt like he needed to explain that grenade shrapnel were found in Prigozhin's body and there were no damages outside of the plane. Putin very much in this speech wanted to highlight that it could have not been shot down with an anti-air missile because there was no damage on the outside. But instead he said that the crash was caused by Prigozhin and his friends getting drugged and drunk and playing with a grenade, and the grenade exploded, causing the plane to crash. And thus they found grenade shrapnel on Prigozhin's body. My friend Zelensky spoke in Europe, in Spain, in the European political community meeting. And the first minute or two of his speech is very moving and touching, and for me, I resonate with it. I think this is true. Me, as an Estonian, having gone through the Estonian conscription, having been connected to the military, my city, Tallinn, the capital where I live, is 4 hours drive from St. Petersburg, the second biggest city in Russia. So you will see in this speech why it resonates with me so much.
If there is some pause in their aggression against Ukraine, any freezing of the situation, there will be a new critical moment. 2028. If Russia is allowed to adapt now, by the 2028, the Kremlin will be able to restore the military potential that we destroyed.
This is not only Zelensky's words. Not many people in the Western Europe or America know about this, but the Second Chechen War, the Free Chechenist president at the time, Dudayev, was saying this in an interview in the middle of the 1990s, saying that how Russia works, they have an aggressive war. If they fail, they will need a ceasefire, they will make goodwill suggestions, goodwill gestures, they will pull back, and they will settle with a peace agreement that gives them 5 or 10 years, after which they will replenish their forces and attack again. Peace time or a pause in hostilities or a frozen conflict with Russia is never a stop to the hostilities. It's a pause in hostilities. Everyone who has studied Russia or seen their aggressive actions towards their neighbors in history knows this. And I'm glad the people in Western Europe are also opening their eyes to it. Zelensky, outlines it perfectly. If this conflict is frozen, Russia wants to freeze this conflict and have some kind of negotiations because they need to replenish their forces to go on round 2. This is how they operate. This is the foreign doctrine of Russian army. This is what NATO, we cannot give them. If we do, they will use the time to get stronger because Russia has a lot of resources, and resources plus time equals a lot of military strength. We cannot give them the time.
And it will have enough strength to attack the countries in focus of Russian expansion. And in addition to Ukraine, these are definitely the Baltic states.
Yes, the Baltic states. Russia has always seen the Baltic states as a historical land of theirs, which is simply not true, because Estonians, Lithuanians and Latvians, 3 distinct groups of people with their own language and culture throughout the last 2000 years actually. All these peoples have been in this physical place on the coast of the Baltic Sea. They have not come from somewhere else in the last 2000 years. There has been no migration. We have been here. This is our land, our language, culture, history. We're not Russians. We have never been. Russia sees it differently. Also there is Finland, also there is Poland. Belarus is already semi-part of Russia. Estonians have always seen it like that, but before the war of 2022, Estonians were viewed as Russophobes or fanatics, fanatic Russian haters or fear-mongers, warmongers. Now, it's just a simple fact that we were right, always, and we're still right. And now the goal is for the Western European countries to see it as closely to the Estonians, Latvians and Lithuanians as possible. Because if they don't, this war will not end in Ukraine or the Baltics being taken, or even Poland. After Poland, they will look towards Germany. After Germany, they will look towards what else lies in the West. There is no limits to Russian foreign ambitions.
And definitely other countries where Russian contingents are present. This is clear information from our intelligence, and we are signaling it directly to you. Russia is trying to free the situation to adapt and learning from its mistakes and preparing to move on. Please remember that the most dangerous enemy is the one who really made conclusions and prepared for the next attack based on, especially on these conclusions. Moscow clearly outlined its ambition to capture more imperial space, to prevent Europe from being a place of free nations and working democracies to break European unity.
And to everybody saying in the comments, and I've seen this a lot because many YouTubers or analysts are talking about this, why does Russia have such an aggressive foreign doctrine? Well, because of the European plateau, and they need to get as much land in between NATO and the European Union and Moscow as possible. And people are taking this doctrine and justifying with it why Russia needs to occupy new land. My friends, this is incredibly stupid and short-sighted. Why does Moscow have the right to have some kind of land security around their borders? Estonian capital is 3 hours from the Russian border. Do we have the right to occupy St. Petersburg, saying that we want to move Tallinn further away from Moscow? No, we don't. Nobody does. Each people exists in their own land with their own language and culture, and they should respect others around them. But suddenly people also in the West are justifying Moscow's foreign military doctrine by saying, yes, they have this European plateau issue, there's no mountain separating Moscow from Berlin, they need to grab more land. My friends, this is enabling. Saying this is enabling Russian war crimes in Ukraine. So if you can, acknowledge this. And please don't say it. It's stupid, it's imperialistic. Russia has no right for this aggressive foreign doctrine. Now to the contrary, my friends, we will watch a speech, not from Zelensky this time, but from Medvedev wearing a Russian uniform. He's speaking to, I have no clue who he's speaking to, because this, I don't know. But it's more important what he says and how the people around the table react to him. The signs that the West is running out of breath are visible. This concerns funding, as it's impossible to splash out another country. This is causing significant unrest in Europe, even in the United States. But even here they're trying to find tricks. Now again, I will translate this Russian rhetoric for you. Not the EU and the US are getting tired, but we are getting tired. So the Russians are getting tired, and their people. In order to get a point where our enemy can take a breather, their goal is to push through negotiation process. It's so weird. I just told you what Zelensky said, that we cannot negotiate, we cannot give them a sign to breathe, and it's already known that Russia needs negotiations every time they're doing bad in war to catch their breath. And now Medvedev is saying, we cannot let them negotiate. We want this war. The truth behind is that we need negotiations. We're not doing so great. We need to catch our breath and gather our strength. But look at this guy next to it. Look, this is the second most important person in Russia, third most, really in the top 5, very close to Putin, speaking in a uniform. And the guy next to him is like, oh, cool pencil. I like my new pencil. What is Medvedev saying again? I don't care. I have my new pencil. And these guys here, their faces are also, they reflect how they see this. They know it's all bogus, it's all bamboozlement. But since the cameras are rolling, they have to listen. And look at these snacks here. What is this, vareniki or what? Their goal is to push through such a negotiation process. That will help to weaken Russia. And on the other hand, allow our enemy to accumulate forces. That is the truth. NATO does not need to accumulate forces. If there was an open conflict between NATO and Russia, NATO's forces are more powerful many folds against Russia. There's no need to gather these forces. It's the truth about Russia. They do need to gather. They need to mobilize, train the troops. NATO already has all of that. There's more fighters, more ships, more tanks, everything more in NATO than in the Russian army. So it's the mirror translation effect here again. Mirror it and you get the truth about Russia. We do not need such negotiations. They're simply harmful. Having said that, Russia does not reject the instrument of negotiation. Does not reject the instrument. So it's like, we don't need them, we don't want them. But I mean, we kind of do need them, and we need them bad. And this guy is still not interested, still looking at his pen. The president spoke about it many times. The question is the topic of negotiations. What is the starting point? But that point is simple. Really must be accepted. Well, the starting point is Russia pulls back from Ukraine and from Crimea, pulls back from Georgia and in the Caucasus. Chechnya gets free. Armenia is released from CSTO. And the Central Asian countries also leave from the CSTO. That's the starting point. Now, my friends, will zoom into Crimea. And in the eastern part of Crimea, there's the city of Feodosia. And it's, you know, eastern southern part of Crimea, it's the Black Sea coast. If there was any kind of Ukrainian amphibious landing, which there will not be on a mass scale, because Ukrainians don't have the capability, I'm not gonna lie to you. If there was any, they would do it near the Sevastopol area or in the Tarkhan-Khut Peninsula right here on the western part of Crimea. The thing is, Ukrainian partisans broke into Russian trench systems established near Feodosia, to the southern eastern part of the Black Sea coast of Crimea, like the Russians were expecting a Ukrainian amphibious landing from this central area of the Black Sea. This is what the Russians are afraid. They don't know where it might come from, and they project their fears onto the enemy. The truth is, and I hate to say it, but Ukraine does not simply have the capability for any kind of massive amphibious landing, even with infantry. We're not even talking about the armor. But the Russians don't know this. This is why they're building out these trenches near Feodosia. I guess near Kerch is the next place. Now this is the video of the trenches. This is a Ukrainian partisan filming. And this area should, not in a million years, they will have a Ukrainian amphibious landing. If Ukraine takes Crimea, they will do it through the Kherson area from, you know, Sevastopol area. But I have to say, these trenches are well built, actually. Filled with wood. Well, of course, they're good because they're very fresh and they have never been used, and they're empty because there's actually, in reality, no threat in this area. But they look good. If on the front lines trenches would look like that, that would be incredibly rare and luxurious. Usually the trenches are filled with mud and water, and the artillery destroys the walls very fast. This is peak luxury on the front lines. I didn't even know before that Russians are capable in building something so nice, what looks like a nice trench. At the same time, when the Russia's Iskander missile hit the Ukrainian village near the Kharkiv area, Putin was making a speech, and in that speech he also mentioned that Russia has recruited, without mobilization, only with volunteers, 40,000 new contract recruits in September alone. This comes from the Russian president. Now I'm here to say that this is bogus. There is no way Russia can do that. This war is semi-unpopular. I'm not saying it's unpopular, but it's not like the most popular war in Russia that Russia has ever had. Semi-unpopular, and if they are able, or if they would be able to recruit 40,000 conscripts in a month, they would not need a mobilization ever. But that is not the truth. Looking at the statistics and the losses on the front lines, I would say Russia is able to recruit about 5,000 to 10,000 conscripts a month. 40,000 is utopia. And again, I am here to state that my prediction is Russia will have another mobilization. A partial one, not a full one, but they will have another one. My friends, and now my favorite part of the video, which is thanking the patrons, because these are the people who give me stability and security, which is so important if your job is so insecure. My channel has been demonetized 2 times fully throughout this entire war. So there's nothing stable about it. There's no emotional stability, and the fear about my funding is actually something I live with every day. It has been the reality, and I've learned to live with it, but it's very tiring. And you know, I'm sure many people understand, because in any other positions the fear is the same. You don't know if you're gonna make it. Now these people, the patrons, actually take away a huge portion of that fear. This is why I mention them in every video. I never stop because it means so much to me. It's not only about the material funding, it is for me about the emotional stability. Because I am on antidepressants, emotional stability is one of the hardest things to achieve when you're watching videos like this every day. So thank you, my friends, for helping me out a little bit in my life. And now one of the biggest Patreons in the last, 3 months actually. Thank you for helping me. Max Tovles, yes. And then we have Leif Kilkjaer, Brukke Kingsbury, Fredrik Andersen, Ryugo Kinos Hita. Arigato gozaimasu, my friend. If you like my channel, you know what to do. Patreon link is in the description below. Also, go and check out my Instagram. Cool photos and videos which I cannot post on YouTube are up there. And until my next video, which will be on Monday, Slava Ukraini. And bye bye.